As a longtime Sonic fan, I've always wondered what the best tracks from every era of Sonic were, and today, that's what we're going to figure out. I'm going to choose 3 tracks from the classic, adventure, dark ages, and meta era of Sonic, and declare those 3 tracks as the best, and those 3 games as having the best soundtracks in that era. And then at the end, I'm going to rank each era and choose only 1 track from each era as the best songs of all of Sonic. But first, let's cover some ground rules. Rule number 1 is I'm only going to be ranking console games, unless the handheld game introduces a main character or gameplay mechanic that shows up in a console game. Rule number 2, I'm only allowed to choose 3 tracks and games from each era. Rule number 3 is we are eliminating games in rounds, and the amount of rounds depends on the era. Rule number 4, I can only choose 1 track from each era to declare as the best of all time. And remember that these are just my opinions, so feel free to disagree in the comments. But now that the rules are set, let's jump right into the classic era. For the classic era, the games that we are going to be choosing from are Sonic 1, 2, CD, Mean Bean Machine, Spinball, 3 Knuckles, Knuckles Chaotix, Sonic 3D Blast, Sonic the Fighter, Sonic R, Mania, and Superstars. And yes, we are including Mania and Superstars in the classic era. These are our games, so let's start with round 1. Which games are losing first? And I'm going to have to pick Mean Bean Machine and Spinball, with the standout tracks being Player 2 Versus from Mean Bean Machine and Toxic Caves from Spinball. Both Mean Bean Machine and Spinball are at a huge disadvantage here, being games where the music has to constantly loop for minutes on end and have to settle for just being background music, which doesn't really give them the chance to shine. And these OSTs are pretty short, making them the first to be eliminated. For the second round, the next games to be eliminated are Superstars and Knuckles Chaotix, with the standout tracks being Sunset Evening Star for Chaotix and Lagoon City Zone Act 2 for Superstars. Superstars' OST felt like it was trying way too hard to sound like the classics in my opinion, as well as using the same synth for like half the OST, and I really didn't like that synth and it was driving me crazy. With Knuckles Chaotix, even though I enjoyed its music, I felt like there wasn't as much of an identity here as the other classic games had. For round number 3, the games that are next to be eliminated from their ranking are going to have to be Sonic 1 and Sonic Mania, with standout tracks being Spring Yard Zone for Sonic 1 and Studiopolis Zone Act 1 for Mania. Yes, I know. We are already getting controversial and we're probably like 3 minutes into the video. Sonic 1 is a great first OST with amazing 90s grooves, but gets quickly surpassed by Sonic 2. And to explain myself as Sonic Mania being this low is because half the OST is reused or remixed songs from already existing games. And that really hurts its ranking, even though I love this game and wish Studiopolis could have been a winner. And for our 4th round, this got very hard for me, and this game was almost a winner, and that game is Sonic 2, and its standout track being Chemical Plant. This game was very close into making it into the top 3, and I'm sorry to all my Sonic 2 fans out there, but this game's soundtrack unfortunately gets surpassed by our winners, but just barely, which makes it almost time for us to talk about our first winner. Sonic 3D Blast was a game that I was pleasantly surprised by. This was the only game on this entire list that I have never heard a single second from, and I have to say, my expectations were low because everyone hates this game, but this soundtrack, while being short, is great. And its standout track is Green Grove Act 2. This OST felt like something straight out of Mario 3D World, with its big band sounds. And this game has an awesome special stage track. And speaking of an awesome special stage track, our first winner is Sonic CD. Did I get you? I know I made some people think Sonic 3D Blast was about to win. Sonic CD is our first winner. And this game just has so many great tracks, with multiple versions for each one. It was so hard to pick from, but I'm gonna have to choose Sonic Boom, the vocal track from the American soundtrack. I think this song speaks for itself. It just screams 90s Sonic in attitude. Our next winner is Sonic R. This game is filled with incredible vocal track after vocal track, and if I could only choose one to listen to, it's gotta be Supersonic Racing. If there's a song from a game that can encapsulate the entire premise of that game, it has to be this one. This song is the perfect way to go get anyone excited to play this game. And for our final winner, I think we all saw this coming, it's Sonic 3 and Knuckles. This was the game that had me going back and forth on whether or not it should be above Sonic 2 or not, but I just had to choose Sonic 3 and Knuckles in the end. This OST is just longer, and Michael Jackson's help in the making of this OST just can't be ignored. For Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I was in between the Act 1 boss or Hydro City Zone Act 2. I'm going to have to pick the Act 1 boss. I'm sorry, but it just goes too hard. Not many people talk about this one, and you can really feel the Michael Jackson influence in this one, but if you want to get distracted in a boss fight because of the music, this is your game. So that's it for the classic era. Our winners are Sonic Boom, Supersonic Racing, and the Act 1 boss as the greatest tracks of all time in the classic era. Now let's move on to the adventure era. In the Adventure era, the games that we are going to be discussing are Sonic Adventure, Advanced, Adventure 2, Advance 2, Heroes, Battle, and Advance 3. This era is going to be pretty cutthroat, guys, I gotta be honest. I think most of us can see where this is going. Our first losers are Sonic Battle, Advance, and Advance 2. I have to be real with you guys, I'm not the biggest fan of the Game Boy Advance sound chip, and listening to these all made me lose my mind. There's something about the GBA that just doesn't sound right to me. I think maybe it's because they're trying to push the sound chip as hard as possible with the music, but for example, I found myself enjoying the music for Pokemon Red on the original Game Boy way more than Fire Red on the GBA, so I don't know what it is about the GBA that I just don't like. Anyways, the standout tracks for these are going to have to be Emerald Beach, Casino Paradise Act 1, and Ice Paradise Act 1, purely because of nostalgia I have for Ultimate Flash Sonic, and as a kid I didn't even know that was Advance 2. But even though I wasn't the biggest fan of these soundtracks, as a whole, I do think these tracks go pretty hard, and for our next round is Advance 3. I think it's probably the strongest and most consistent of all the Game Boy Advance games, with the standout track being Cybertrack Act 3. And as for the winners, I think we all saw this coming. It's Sonic Heroes, Adventure 2, and Adventure 1. All three of these games have an amazing blend of both vocal tracks and incredible instrumentals. And if I could pick only three, the first one has to be What I'm Made Of, which was a very hard decision because Sonic Heroes just has so many great vocal tracks to choose from, but I think this song is just too incredible not to choose, and it feels like the end-all be-all, which it is, but I think it embodies it quite well. For Adventure 2, I'm picking City Escape. I was so tempted to choose Live and Learn as the winner, but I'm really going to try not to do songs from the same band, but it's going to be really hard not to choose Crush 40 over and over. But this soundtrack is similar to Heroes because it just has so many incredible vocal tracks, and the Knuckles rap songs are awesome, which made it very hard to choose which was the winner. But I think City Escape embodies who Sonic is, and it's the perfect introduction to this game and to the character if you're new to Sonic. For Sonic Adventure, it's gotta be Open Your Heart. Come on, I had to pick this one. This is the reason why I didn't try to enforce the rule where I couldn't choose the song from the same band, because that would make this so impossible. Open Your Heart is easily the best song in this soundtrack, and is a great opener for our first true 3D Sonic adventure. But now, with the adventure era covered, I think it's time to enter the Dark Ages. For our quote-unquote Dark Age games, we have Sonic Rush, Shadow 05, Sonic 06, Sonic Riders, Secret Rings, Rush Adventurer, Zero Gravity, Unleashed, and Black Knight. I think this is probably the hardest era for me to judge. This era probably had the strongest OST lineup out of any era for me. But if I have to choose, in the first round, the first games to lose are going to have to be Sonic Riders and Riders Zero Gravity. I normally like to have at least 3 games out in the first round, but I feel like these were definitely the weakest and shouldn't be compared to the other games. The first Riders honestly didn't have a good vocal track, and I find that insane because almost every Sonic game has a great main vocal theme. The original version of Sonic Speed Riders is alright, but the remix is terrible. I can't hold back on how much I hate it. I just don't like it, and Catch Me If You Can is okay. I just wasn't a fan of it. For a standout track, I think I'd have to pick Splash Canyon. That one is pretty good. Zero Gravity I also wasn't a huge fan of, but none of these songs are bad. I just wasn't very enthralled by them. The game has some great vocal tracks with Ungravitify, and the remix is actually great in this one. And this version of Catch Me If You Can is also incredible. It gives the Crush 40 version a run for its money. And you know I love Crush 40. For the standout track, I think I'll have to go with Ungravitify, Electro Extended version. It's really neck and neck with the original version of Catch Me If You Can, but I think I'm feeling that one. Okay, now time for a hard part. For round 2, I'm going to have to go with Rush Adventure first. I think this is a great OST, but it really loses that Hideki charm that Rush had, and I think that's the only reason it loses here. For the standout track, I'm going to go with New Adventure. It's a great opening theme for this game. The next game I have to put is Sonic Rush. I know, it's getting controversial again, but while I love Hideki's work, as I mentioned earlier, these tracks really start to blend together for me. But despite this, I really do think these tracks might have the most brilliant and creative samples of any game I've ever played. For example, we have a Michael Jackson sample and Malcolm X sample in the same game. I don't think many other games could say anything remotely similar to that. For the standout track, I think I'll have to go with What You Need. And this was a hard choice between Wrapped in Black and Back to Back, but I'm gonna have to go with that one. Now for this next one, this was the absolute hardest choice of the entire video for me. I kept going back and forth between these two, with both of these games having some of my favorite of all time Crush 40 tracks, and I was still trying to make up my mind as I was writing this part of the script, but the next losing game has to be Shadow the Hedgehog. When I say this was hard, I mean it physically hurts me to not have I Am All of Me as a winning song. Also, that's the standout track here obviously. The entire OST does a great job of what it's going for. I love the darker feeling to the music, and honestly gives a darker atmosphere better than the actual game itself did. But our first winner is of course Sonic Unleashed. Anyone who knows me saw this coming. It's my favorite game and soundtrack here, with the track I'm declaring as the best is Endless Possibilities. This is my favorite main vocal theme of any Sonic game. If any song can give you a preview of what both parts of the game are like and describe Sonic as a character in just one song, it's this one. Bowling for Soup is just a goated band. The soundtrack itself is also great, with a mixture of rock, big band, and orchestral themes, which I'm a sucker for. Our next winner is of course Sonic 06. Everyone has talked to death about how good this soundtrack is, so I won't cover it for too long, but it definitely deserves the praise that it gets. It's a shame that this game was rushed, because this music really deserves a lot more respect than what it got, but the track I had to choose as the winner has to be His World. It's another great song that I feel like does a good job at showing us who Sonic is through music alone. And for our final winner, it's Sonic and the Black Knight. This was the game where I just couldn't decide which was better, this or Shadow 05. I really love Crush 40, as I mentioned a million times by now, and I thought I listened to all their Sonic tracks, but somehow Live Life was a track that I just missed. It slipped by me, I don't know how. But when that song came up, I just knew it needed to be a winner. This song is honestly just what I needed right now. Every time I listen to it, it gives me chills the entire song. And I'm not joking when I say this. When I went to work this morning, I almost shed a tear. And I know this sounds like the most insane glaze that anyone could have for a song, but this has got to be one of the most meaningful tracks to me now from the entire series, which makes Live Life the winner for me, even though I really love Night of the Wind. This entire OST does hard rock with orchestra, and I absolutely love that combo. Alright, with the winners of the Dark Ages being Endless Possibilities from Unleashed, His World from 06, and Live Life from Black Knight, it's time to move on to the Meta Era. For our Meta Era games, we have Sonic Colors, Free Riders, Sonic 4 Episodes 1 and 2, yes, I'm just gonna put them together, Sega All-Stars Racing, Sonic X Shadow Generations, yes, I'm putting those together too, Sonic Lost World, Boom Rise of Lyric, All-Stars Racing Transformed, Sonic Forces, Team Sonic Racing, Sonic Frontiers, and Cross Worlds. Also yes, I know those last three could be considered a new era, but then that would just automatically make them winners, and that would be no fun now, would it? So I just decided to put them in the Meta Era. So straight off the bat in round 1, we are taking out All-Stars Racing, All-Stars Racing Transformed, Team Sonic Racing, Cross Worlds, and Sonic X Shadow Generations. Which yes, I know, this is an absolutely insane way to start this, but you have to remember that most of these soundtracks are just reused or remixed versions of songs from other games, and I faulted Mania for that, so I have to remain consistent here. So are these soundtracks good? Yes, of course, but are they original? Definitely not. So for round 2, it's going to be Sonic 4 Episodes 1 and 2, and Free Riders. Sonic 4 Episode 1 is one of the few Sonic games where I think an argument can be made that this is straight up a bad original soundtrack. Every single issue that I have with Superstars is here, but tenfold. They just cannot recreate the Genesis sound, and I don't think they ever will unless your name is Sonic Mania or Generations. And as soon as they stop trying, it's for the better in my opinion. And as for Episode 2, I think it has the same issues, just not nearly as bad. And even though I pick a standout track for every game, I don't think there is one for Sonic 4. I can't really think of a single track that I would want to go back and listen to. And I know I'm being super harsh on Sonic 4, so I want to apologize to the 3 Sonic 4 fans out there. Sonic Free Riders, I think, vocal tracks aside, is the most consistent Riders OST, but it's just so short. Probably the shortest OST here, and I think that really hurts the game. As for the standout track, I'm gonna go with the Crush 40 version of Free, though the other version is great too, but I gotta show my bias here a little bit. For round 3, we have Boom Rise of Lyric and Sonic Forces. Boom Rise of Lyric doesn't have a bad soundtrack by any means, it's just pretty forgettable. I don't really have much to say about it, to be honest. It's a little basic, but I think it's fine. For the standout track, I'll probably go with the main theme. I think it's pretty cool. For Sonic Forces, I think it's a solid OST with some great vocal tracks, even if Fist Bump is pretty corny, but I don't care. I was born on the cob. But I think my main issue is once again the classic Sonic tracks. For some reason, unless you're Sonic Mania or Sonic Generations, I'm just not a fan of trying to mimic the sounds of the classics. But these tracks definitely groove, that's for sure, unlike Sonic 4. And I don't think they're bad at all. I think it's just the timbre of the music itself. As for the standout track, I gotta go with Infinite's theme. I've always thought this theme went so hard, and what honestly made him even more disappointing because he felt like such a big threat, which he isn't. I've always thought this, but Infinite is the lamest villain with the hardest theme song. But now, it's time for the winners of the Meta Era. I feel like these are probably the most predictable winners next to the Adventure Era, but we have Sonic Frontiers, Sonic Colors, and Sonic Lost World. Frontiers is a soundtrack, just like Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes, that boasts a lot of vocal tracks, and that definitely carries this OST for me. But that doesn't mean that the more instrumental stuff is bad. I just enjoy the vocal themes a lot here, especially Kellen Quinn's work. I still think that this might be the most insane Sonic music collab of all time. And as a fan of his music, it was a very pleasant surprise for me back when this game was coming out. And if you told a Sonic fan that Kellen Quinn was going to work on Sonic like 10 years ago, they would not believe you. As for Sonic Colors, his music, just like the game itself, definitely feels a lot more family friendly, but I think this is a great OST, with a mix of orchestral, electronic, and some rock. Sonic Lost World was a great soundtrack, and I've always liked it, and I feel like people rarely ever talk about it. Is this soundtrack a little basic? Sure, but it has so many great tracks with orchestral and jazz sounds. But for the 3 tracks that I choose as the best of all time in the meta era, are going to have to be Undefeatable, Planet Wisp Act 1, and Midnight Owl. These are our winners for the meta era, and we're almost done. But just like I mentioned earlier, it's time to now rank the eras themselves. For 4th place, we have the meta era. From the start, I knew this is going to be the weakest era for me. This era felt like a little bit of an awkward stage when it comes to the music, unless you want to include Mania in this era, which I didn't. But as for the rest of the eras, I feel like they're pretty interchangeable for me. But as for right now, this is how I'm feeling. 3rd place is the classic era. 2nd is the adventure era. And 1st place as the best era of music is the Dark Ages. It's kind of crazy that the era known as the Dark Ages has some of the strongest OSTs out there for Sonic, but now it's time for the entire reason you clicked on this video. The 4 greatest tracks of Sonic we have of all time are Sonic Boom in the 4th place, Undefeatable in 3rd place, Open Your Heart in 2nd place, and we have Live Life as the greatest song of all time. This was very hard for me, and as I'm reading the script right now, I never fixed it, but number 1 was Endless Possibilities originally. But Live Life just took the top spot for me. I just love it way too much. But these are the results of my rankings. Do you agree with the decisions I made, or would you do it differently? Let me know in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you listening to me yap for however long this video is, and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Alright, after this video, I'm gonna have to take a break from Sonic music. I've been listening to it day in and day out for like a week straight. Like, after I finished this ranking, I went to take a shower with my music on, and I realized I could listen to other music. I feel like the meme of the guy breaking the chain between his arms, but you know, I'll be back to listening to Sonic music in like 3 days, so whatever. Thanks for watching.